we're not going back. Make no mistake, this is MAGA on steroids, without guardrails, without people like Mike Pence, Mark Esper, Mark Milley, and so many others who have told us exactly what we have to fear under Trump 2.0. Project 2025 would fundamentally change our lives by banning abortion nationwide, mass firing public servants, and dismantling the Department of Education. Trump's Project 2025 agenda would devastate middle-class families by cutting Social Security benefits, raising prescription drug costs, eroding workers' rights, and ending health care protections for Wisconsinites with pre-existing conditions. This ain't us. This is not what we're about. This extremist agenda is terrifying, but it's also mobilizing. Millions of people around the country are on the move, talking to friends, neighbors, and fellow voters, shocked by the indecency of Trump's extreme MAGA agenda, but also incredibly inspired by Kamala Harris's campaign, just as all of you are, just as all of your friends and neighbors are. Vice President Harris is fighting for a new way forward that protects our fundamental freedoms, strengthens our democracy, and ensures every person has the opportunity, as Tristan said, not just to get by, but to get ahead. So these are the stakes, and it's why the work we'll all do is so important in the days ahead. We're in the home stretch, but it's not time to let up on our efforts. It's time to redouble them. It's going to take all of us working together in this fight, because as Vice President Harris says, when we fight, we win. So let's do it. Let's elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, Senator Baldwin, and Wisconsin Democrats up and down the ballot. Thank you. Now let's go win this thing.
When the Saints go marching in.
Come on, let's hear Green
When
Bay.
the Saints go marching in.
Come on, Green Bay.
I want to be in that number. When the Saints go marching in. Everybody! When the Saints marching in. When the Saints go marching in. I want to be in that number. When the Saints go marching in.
Come on, everybody, put your hands together.
Please welcome the Governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, the Governor of Wisconsin, Tony Evers, and the next Vice President of the United States, Governor Tim Walz.
Well, I was born in a small town, and I live in a town. Paradise, small town, oh, small communities. All my friends in this small town.
Hello, Green Bay! I want to hear you! It is so great to be back in town with my good friend and our next Vice President, Tim Walz. So we are taking this bus all across Wisconsin and Pennsylvania because together we're going to win this thing. Today, I want to tell you why I'm in this fight and what's at stake. I want to take a moment and ask yourself why you are here right now. Just think about it, what's at stake, who your why is, what your why is. My why is my two daughters. I want them to have every opportunity to succeed and have the freedom to live their own lives under their terms. I know that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will work hard every day to make our country a better place for them and for all of our children and their grow our economy and protect fundamental freedoms, from building 3 million homes to tax relief for 100 million working and middle-class families. In-home care for seniors on Medicare, to protecting women's rights, workers' rights, and LGBTQ+ rights. There is a seat at the Walz and Harris table for every one of us in this country. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have lived normal lives like ours. They get what we've been through, and that's why they're fighting for us. Get you or your life at all. Do you think he's ever had to put off a car repair until he could afford it? I mean, do you think he's got a driver's license? You think he's ever scanned a coupon to save a couple of bucks when he was checking out of the grocery store? You think he's ever been in a grocery store? You think he ever sat down in front of 3 bills knowing he could only pay 1 or 2 of them? He only cares about himself, and he will say anything to get himself elected. As president, he will leave us behind just like he did before. Now, we here in the Midwest, we know about his record of broken promises, right? The Midwest is best and the world's got to learn, right? We know. Trump claimed he would save American manufacturing. On this issue, and like so many others, he was all talk. During his 4 years in office, more than 200,000 jobs were shipped overseas. He said not one auto plant would close. The truth, 6 did. He even suggested that auto manufacturing move out of the Midwest into anti-union states. Trump loves to praise Elon Musk and his non-union EV plants in Texas. He thinks that we're stupid. He goes down to Texas and says EVs are the greatest thing, but if they're being built by American workers, by an American company in a state like Michigan, he craps all over it. We won't forget. At the same time, J.D. Vance said he wouldn't even support a $500 million investment from the Biden-Harris administration to upgrade factories in Michigan and protecting 650 union auto jobs. J.D. Vance called that table scraps. Table scraps. You talk to any of those 650 union families and ask them how they feel about it, right? That's right. The Biden-Harris administration took action to save hundreds of Michigan auto jobs. J.D. Vance would say no thanks. You can't make this stuff up. Trump failed us once. We cannot let him do it again. No place in America. Yes, you're right. We are not going back. That's all right. Go ahead. No place in America understands better than the Midwest that when a factory leaves, it takes a whole lot with it. It means fewer students in our public schools, fewer first responders, residents, and small businesses. All of us, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, want to bring manufacturing jobs back home so everyone has a path to prosperity. These jobs keep roofs over our heads, food on our tables, and help us pay to make sure that our kids have what they need to be successful. After 4 years of Donald Trump's failures, things finally started changing when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris went into the White House. They worked across the aisle to invest in American industry and Midwest workers. Today, there are more auto workers, more factories getting built, more roads getting fixed, more middle-class jobs than when Trump was president. The Midwest is moving forward thanks to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Say it with me, we're not going back. So, let me just get real for just a second. Look at what's just happened in the last few weeks. 2 devastating hurricanes that cost so many their lives and destroyed communities. In moments of crisis, people expect their leaders to put politics aside and work together to solve problems. Thankfully, that's exactly what President Biden and Vice President Harris are doing. I can tell you, as a governor way far away from the South, we sent the Michigan National Guard down to help with response too, because it's the right thing to do.
That's right.
In a crisis, a leader who asks, was their governor nice enough to me, when deciding whether or not to send tests to Vladimir Putin or the states of this country, is not the kind of leader we need. We need leaders who roll up their sleeves and say, what do you need and how can I help you, right? This election, we need to elect a commander-in-chief who has lived a life like ours, who understands what we are going through, who has taken care of a sick parent, who has a running mate who's a teacher and a veteran and someone who to be proud of. We deserve a commander-in-chief who is ready to hit the ground running on day one. Unlike Trump, the first thing that Kamala Harris will ask if any of us is trouble is, how can I help? What do you need? Are you okay? And where can I support you? That's what Kamala Harris will do as our commander-in-chief. Because if we've learned anything, it's in the next 4 years there will be some crisis of some sort. We know that. We're going to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz because they're going to show up for us every single day, crisis or not. And when, God forbid, there is, they will have our backs. So, they are just like us. They embody the values of us Midwesterners. The things that we teach our kids here. Tell the truth. Work hard. Get shit done. Midwesterners are strong, they are smart, and they are good people, and they deserve no less in their commander-in-chief. The next President of the United States, Kamala Harris, and Vice President Tim Walz will give us exactly that. So, Wisconsin, are you ready to do everything we can in the next 3 weeks to make sure we win this thing? All right. Now, please join me in giving a big, warm welcome to your favorite governor and one of my favorite governors, Tony Evers.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, Wisconsin. How the heck are you, Green Bay? You know, it sounds like you're jazzed as hell. Let's hear it again for Governor Whitmer. You know, it's not every day a Lions fan gets that kind of applause in Green Bay. But I'll tell you, I'm so glad she's here and spending a few days on the bus traveling across Wisconsin. Thank you so much. And also thank you to the Packer fan band. Where are you folks? Over there. Good job, everybody. So, are you ready to hear from the next vice presidents of the United States of America? I take that as a yes. Wisconsin, you know, there's just a few weeks left to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and send them to the White House. People are already voting, and so many undecided voters are yet to decide about who they're supporting. The work you do between today and Election Day can make a difference in this race. On November 5th, which happens to be my birthday, we're going to re-elect Tammy Baldwin with fair maps. With fair maps, we're going to take back the Assembly and pick up seats in the Senate. And we're going to flip a couple congressional districts in Wisconsin while we're at it. And at the top of the ticket, we've got our incredible Vice President, Kamala Harris. She spent the last 4 years defending our democracy, fighting for the freedoms we hold dear, and working tirelessly to do the right thing and deliver for us. She has been a champion for lowering costs, including capping insulin at $35 a month. She has helped deliver investments that are transforming our communities, rebuilding our infrastructure, and supporting our working families. And when it came time to pick her vice president nominee, she had the good sense to pick a Midwestern former teacher and turned governor. How about that? And hey, you know, turns out that's a winning combination in Wisconsin also. Boom. And I know my friend Tim Walz is going to be an incredible, incredible vice president. That's because governors get shit done. So, Wisconsin, I'm going to ask you, are you all in? Good, because we have to keep Wisconsin and the rest of the blue wall in place, because here's the deal about the two jokers in this race. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are a dangerous threat to our country and our democracy. They're not running to help others or running to serve themselves and those at the top. Their radical Project 2025 agenda won't help Wisconsin families. It'll hurt them. Donald Trump brags about how he killed, quote unquote, killed Roe v. Wade. Because of Trump's hand-picked Supreme Court, Wisconsin women now know what it means to live in a state with a near total abortion ban. They know because they lived it here. We know Trump and Vance will try to pass a national abortion ban, roll back access to birth control, emergency contraception, and even fertility treatments. We know, guess what they're else doing? We know they'll repeal the Affordable Care Act and deny coverage to folks like me and so many others and people you care about that have pre-existing conditions. And they will give tax breaks for the ultra-rich and big corporations instead of helping working families get ahead. That's just wrong, folks. That's just wrong. Wisconsin, this November, the people have the power and we have a choice. And we're not going back. We're not going back. We're not going back. We're not going back. And in Wisconsin, we're going to tell Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Republicans up and down the ticket exactly that come November 5th. So let's get to work and let's win this damn thing. Yay. Now, it's my honor to introduce a friend, a fellow governor, and someone who's going to make a phenomenal vice president. Let's give a warm Wisconsin welcome to Governor Tim Walz. Tim?
Thanks, brother.
Nothing good, baby.
Wow. Well, hello, Green Bay. Good to see you all. Can I just say there's so many reasons to be thankful. I, for one, would just like to say two of my dearest friends happen to be two of the most effective and decent people I have ever met in Tony Evers and Gretchen Whitmer. So thank you. Incredible. And as Tony said it, let's just be clear. I think you know in this state what you have, but on behalf of the rest of the country needs Senator Tammy Baldwin. Please send her back. Please send her back. I said between Minnesota and Wisconsin, we have three of the best senators in the entire country. The other one, not so much, but you work on that next time. I'd like to give a big thank you today, especially to the leadership of our indigenous sovereign nations who are here today. So thank you for that. And each and every one of you, look, it's a Monday in October, and you came here, got in line, came in here to show how much you love this country and the work you're going to do for it. So thank you, each and every one of you. And because of that, I'm going to clear this up right at the beginning. I came just a few minutes ago from Lambeau Field. First visit, my staff was like, don't say anything about the Vikings. I said, that's like telling somebody not to swear in church. Of course you don't do that. What do they think? I'm a football guy. That's like a religious experience over there. But look, we may not see eye to eye on that part of it, but I can tell you what, we're all going to agree on this. This year, the road to the Super Bowl, the road to control of the Senate, and the road to the White House goes right through the NFC North. Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Look, you had a Lions fan, a Packers fan, and a Vikings fan up here. The only thing more amazing is we got Bernie Sanders, Dick Cheney, and Taylor Swift all on the same ticket. Well, there you go. All right, 22 days until Election Day, and we are running like this is it. 22 days. 22 days till we win this thing. Everything is on the line. Everything is on the line. So Kamala and I, we are not going back. We are not going back. So look, we're barnstorming the country. We're doing radio, TV, podcasts. I'm about 2 hits away from being a regular on Fox News now. We're on a first name basis. But look, our policies help the people who listen to Fox News. That's why we need to get out there. Over the weekend, Kamala Harris made it very clear on this. She's ready. She has been making this clear for a long time. She's ready to be commander-in-chief, and she released her medical records. Straight, clean bill of health. Physical, mental stamina to do the job. Now, I think you all know where I'm going with this, don't you? We're all wondering. Donald Trump said that he would release his numbers. He would release his medical records. Look, he says now, I think he forgot to do it. He's been forgetting things. We'll give him a break on this. But Kamala Harris is right on this. Watch his rallies. He's confused. He's a nearly 80-year-old man. He's ranting and rambling until people get bored and leave his rallies. That's happening. But here's the thing about this. It would be funny if it wasn't so dangerous. Yesterday, he went on Fox News. That's a safe place for him. He went on there, and he suggested that he is going to send the military against the enemy from within. Now, I want you to think about it. In other words, Americans who don't support him. Just to be clear, if any of your neighbors or friends or anybody thinks about that, you know who he's talking about? He's talking about you. He's talking about you. He's talking about someone who comes to a rally to express their love and their commitment to our democracy. Donald Trump sees that as an enemy, all right? So I have to tell you, as someone who wore this nation's uniform proudly, as someone who now is the commander-in-chief of the Minnesota National Guard, the idea of sending U.S. military personnel against American citizens makes me sick to my stomach. I'll tell you what. We'll let the lawyers decide if what he said was treason, but what I know is it's a call for violence, plain and simple. And it's pretty damn un-American, if you ask me. So look, if anybody wants to pretend that this is a normal conversation that Donald Trump is having, just dispel that. The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, said, no one has ever been more dangerous to this country than Donald Trump, and he is a fascist to his core. Let that sink in, and don't be a damn bit afraid of saying it, because that's exactly who he is. That's exactly who he is. But here's the thing. Here's the good news. We get to do something about it. If you're like me, I am sick and tired of this guy, ready to turn the page on him, and we can do that by making Kamala Harris the President of the United States. As you heard Governor Whitmer say, Vice President Harris and I both grew up in middle-class families, and what everyone in here knows is When the economy is fair, it works best for everyone. And in that case, we have that saying, I know you have it here too, we all do better when we all do better. That's not a hard thing to understand. That's why under her leadership, we're investing in America's people once again. Today, there are more factories getting built, more American energy is being produced than on any given day when Donald Trump was president, and that's a fact. And for these folks in the front row, I'm going to say it. She's proud to have been part of the most pro-labor administration in American history. Unafraid and standing next to Joe Biden as we walk picket lines for workers demanding better pay and better working conditions. Because we know when workers win, America wins. It's that simple. And guess what? The middle class grows and businesses flourish. Now look, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, they see things differently. Trump talks a big game, but he was a disaster for working people. He was one of the biggest losers of manufacturing jobs in American history, and that's a fact. So to your neighbors, your friends, hell, our family members, if they say, I don't really like Trump, but I like his policies, which policies were those? When he destroyed American manufacturing? When he shipped jobs to China? He doesn't even manufacture here. He outsources that to China. So just so we know, under his leadership, 83,000 jobs disappeared in Wisconsin. Now, I know this state knows. Thank God for Tony Evers and some sanity in this, because I remember. Because remember, Trump and that guy before Tony, when they went to the Foxconn, they went to the Foxconn site. Donald Trump showed up with a golden shovel. You tell me, Governor Whitmer, if he knows which end of the shovel actually works. I guarantee you that. But he did that photo op and he promised you 13,000 jobs. And he called that big glass sphere the eighth wonder of the world. Well, I know it's not a shock to any of you, but none of those jobs materialized. And that sphere, you can get a pretty good deal right now renting it out as a banquet hall, just so you know that. Once again, it would be funny if it wasn't so damn sad, because that's Donald Trump's legacy. He claims he cares about union workers, but he makes it harder for them to bargain for pay and benefits. So if there's any questions amongst our union sisters and brothers on this, Donald Trump is a scab. He will break picket lines. And the other day, Senator Vance attacked the PRO Act, a bill that protects workers' right to organize and collectively bargain. The AFL-CIO said that the PRO Act is the most significant worker empowerment legislation since the Great Depression. J.D. Vance called it a failed model. So just to be clear, the guy who showed up and wanted to act nice a few weeks ago is not the guy's policies that care for workers. They undermine them every step of the way, and that populist stick is nothing more than an act. Because they've never worked union jobs. They've never been union members. They've never cared about workers. And so Trump promised he would stop offshoring. His tax bill created incentives for companies to do this, that. He cut taxes for billionaires and corporations during his presidency, and 200,000 American jobs went overseas. So their revisionist history is a bunch of crap. It did not happen. They undermined us. Look, you all know it. We can't have 4 more years of this. We won't have 4 more years of it. We won't. Now, I want to make sure I speak precisely on this. I said, Donald Trump doesn't have a damn plan. That wasn't quite true. He had a concept of a plan on health care, but he actually does have a plan. And they did us a favor, they printed it. It's about 900 pages of the Project 2025, just so you know. Now, he made it clear. He'll do it. He'll go what's in there. And just so all of you know, I'll save you the time of reading it, but you ought to see it. It's terrifying on this. He will gut the Affordable Care Act. That's when he said he had a concept of a plan on the ACA. And then J.D. Vance tried to explain what that was. And I said, you should go back to the concept of a plan, because you explain it, it's worse. Because it's not going to work. Cut Social Security. Just to be clear, every single year Donald Trump was president, and they'll fact check it to the end of time, he proposed cutting Social Security in his budgets. And now he wants to impose a Trump sales tax on everything we buy. There is not an economist in the world who thinks Donald Trump's tariffs won't end up costing you about $4,000 per family. It's that simple. So again, for your relatives and friends who think these policies are going to be good, let's fix it on the front end so we don't have to say, I told you so, when they realize if this happens, if they elect this guy. But I don't want you to think I'm not generous to this, because somebody said, well, you never say anything about Donald Trump. Anything nice. Well, that's probably true. I have not. But he has kept some of his promises. He took his rich friends down to Mar-a-Lago. He told them on camera, you're rich as hell, and I'm going to give you a tax cut. He delivered that tax cut. So look, I know that these guys put that thing out there. Now they pretend like, oh, I don't know what Project 2025 is. What is that? You know, now all of a sudden, oh, we'll protect women's reproductive rights. You know, we didn't say that. Of course they said it. They said it every step of the way. And I said, football folks here know, you draw up a playbook, you're going to run the plays. That's what Project 2025 is. They're going to run the plays. Just so you know in there, a little side note, they're actually talking about privatizing the National Weather Service, the weather forecasting. Probably a pretty bad idea. Probably a pretty bad idea. Look, I say this, and I know this. I am preaching to the choir. But our recital is in 22 days, people. And we need to start singing. We need to start singing. So we know what their song sounds like, and it's terrible. Well, here's what our song sounds like. Give you something to vote for. Kamala Harris has laid out a plan to build an opportunity economy, one that lowers everyday costs, lifts everyone up, leaves no one behind. We're talking about a child tax credit to help new parents, $6,000 in the first year of that child's life, let you buy a crib, a child car seat. We did it in Minnesota, and you know what happens when you put that child tax credit in? It reduces childhood poverty by 1/3. So you start investing in little ones. You know this story. You can invest in early childhood education. You could invest in a child tax credit. You could invest in children's health care. You can invest in your schools, because you can make a decision. You can buy school buses and school meals, or you can buy prison buses and prison meals. We'd rather buy the school buses. We'd rather invest on the front end. She talks about a home. These guys are speculators, Wall Street guys. These are the ones that see buying up homes and then jacking up the prices. That's what they do. It's just another commodity to buy and sell. Homes are where we take care of our family. That's why Kamala Harris has proposed building 3 million more homes and a $25,000 down payment assistance. That makes things better. And this price gouging stuff, you saw it in action. We got a hurricane coming in Florida. Guess what happened to airline prices right before that? People trying to fly out of Florida. That's not a fair economy. That's not capitalism. That's price gouging. And we saw it with insulin. Those of you who have to have your insulin, capping it at $35 makes sure everybody can get it. And you know why that's not against capitalism? Because it costs $5 to make that vial of insulin. Why were they selling it for $800? And the answer is because they could, and no one stopped them from doing it, and it was putting people's lives at risk. We can do the same thing with prices across the board. And for those of you who are small business owners, you know what you pour into that business. You know how hard it is to start it. Right now, forever, we've had a $5,000 tax credit for you to start that small business. That's not enough. Kamala Harris has proposed a $50,000 tax credit that lets you get your small business off the ground. That's the way it should be. And then some of you, for the gray hairs in here, or those of you who aren't gray hair, if you're caught in that sandwich generation, if you're like me, I got a nearly 90-year-old mom, and as of yesterday, I have an 18-year-old son on this, so there we go. Gus turned 18 yesterday, and he said, Dad, you're working hard to get my vote. So there it is. But if you're in that generation, you're concerned about costs. You're concerned about apprenticeship programs or college. You're also concerned about Medicare and care for those parents. Kamala Harris proposed what I think is the most groundbreaking change to Medicare in maybe the last 50 years. The ability to pay for home health care for our seniors when they're at home. It's incredible. And get this, Medicare, some of you know this, Medicare didn't pay for vision and hearing. Those are important things when you need. So she proposed adding that to Medicare so that our seniors can get their hearing aids and their glasses. So here's the one. Clip this for your Republican uncle or your brother, if you're in some of us. and let them know, when did the party of Ronald Reagan decide that it was okay for government to make your personal choices? Look, the Republican Party has added much to the benefit of this country, but that's not who Donald Trump and the MAGA folks are. When Vice President Harris, I talk about freedom, she comes out to the stage on the song Freedom. It's not just a song. We mean that you should be free to make the decisions about your health care and your family, not politicians. And these guys on Social Security, we pay into it. In my family, it was Social Security survivor benefits. I'm a teenager. My little brother's in 4th grade. My dad dies. Social Security survivor benefits was there to keep my mom going. So we're Midwesterners. We're damn happy to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. We just didn't have any boots. That's what Social Security survivor benefits is, and we paid into it. So these are the guys like Donald Trump tells you it's a Ponzi scheme. J.D. Vance tells you it's the only thing standing in between fiscal sanity and that. No, it's not. It's tax. How can a guy like Donald Trump not pay taxes for 10 of the last 15 years and then complain about Social Security? So Kamala Harris has said, we will strengthen Social Security and Medicare and make for a dignified retirement. And I'm going to say it on this one. Freedom means a lot of things. We're talking about freedom for you to make your own choices, freedom to retire in dignity, freedom to have health care. And I'll say this, freedom to send your children to school without worrying they'll be shot dead in that classroom. That's freedom. That's freedom. And I'm going to take no crap off these guys. I know guns. I'm a veteran. I'm a hunter. Kamala Harris is a gun owner, as we found out. We're not going to let them make this about the Second Amendment because we defend the Second Amendment. But our first responsibility is the safety and security of our children. That's our first responsibility. All right, you've seen it. Don't listen to the polling or whatever, but it's pretty clear on this that the message is sinking in with the women, fellas. So I'm going to make a message to the guys here for just a minute. I'm going to make a message to the guys here. If you had any women you love in your life, your wives, your daughters, your mothers, and friends, let's not forget, their lives are literally at stake in this election. Let's be very clear. Donald Trump appointed those 3 Supreme Court justices who did exactly what he told them to do, repeal Roe versus Wade. He brags about it. He's glad my daughter Hope now has fewer rights than her mother had. That's what he's bragging about. More than 20 states have the Trump abortion ban, which he calls a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. Now, you're all thinking this. What that beautiful thing means is all across this country in those states, there are women that are being denied care in the ER, having miscarriages in parking lots, survivors of rape and incest being asked to carry those pregnancies to term. That could be the women across the country, and you saw it with Amber Thurman down in Georgia, had to travel to North Carolina because of that trip. She lost her life. If she would be living in a state or living in a country that had Roe versus Wade protection, she very well would be alive today. The idea that women's rights are dependent on geography is just abhorrent to all of us. That's why we need to elect Kamala Harris and reinstall Roe versus Wade. And here's another one for the guys. Here's another one for the guys because we care deeply about the families. They're not done. Project 2025 is going to restrict access to fertility treatments. They're going to be ripping those away. I know there's those of you out there. If you've not been through the actual anguish of infertility, I guarantee you know somebody who has. My wife and I went through this for years. We had access to insurance and we had access to fertility treatments. So I'll have to tell you this. I'll be damned if I would deny anybody else a chance to have the family that they want. And you all go back to this. Can you imagine the party of Ronald Reagan, the idea that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance should be able to tell you whether you have children or not? That is absolutely abhorrent. And I think when you talk to this issue about personal freedoms, while it puts women's lives at risk, every man in here, you have a vested interest to make sure that Donald Trump gets nowhere near the White House again on that issue alone. Now look, they are just getting started. If he wins, there's a good chance that the next president of the United States will appoint 2 or 3 more Supreme Court justices. An institution that already said he's got near total immunity and adjudicating the laws for our children and our grandchildren's lives. He could have 6 of 9 justices on the Supreme Court appointed by one man who's above the law. That's not this country. That's not the way we want to go. But just to be clear, all of you know, we don't want it for our kids. We don't want it for our grandkids. But here's the big finish on this. That isn't going to happen because we're going to elect Kamala Harris to be president of the United States. 22 days. Don't get complacent. I know that people are talking about this. Look, we are the underdogs. For Christ's sakes, I'm a Vikings fan. We're always the underdogs. You know that. Well, we're also 5-0 this year, so there's that. So look, I got to give the quote here on this. It was Vince Lombardi who gave that one, and I used it all the time on this. It's a very simple analogy that everybody in Wisconsin, everybody in Michigan, everybody in Pennsylvania knows. There is simply no substitute for work. No substitute for work. So look, 22 days, we're leaving it all on the field. It's all gas and no break for 22 days. I've been saying, I got to be careful on this one. I've been saying we're going to sleep when we're dead, people. I had a woman come up to me at a rally and say, you're taking that too literally, man. You look like hell. So down there. So I'm not slowing down. You're not slowing down. There are people out there that don't have the ability to come to a rally. They're too busy. They're working 2 and 3 jobs. They're concerned about health care. They're concerned about their children. We owe it to them to do everything we can to win this thing. Hell, there may be people not voting for us, but I'll damn sure guarantee you the proposals we're putting forward and Kamala Harris as a president will serve them so much better than Donald Trump that we owe it to those folks too. So look, early voting starts in 8 days here on the 22nd. We need all of you to get out there, vote as early as you can, get out and bring people to the polls. I'm telling you, this thing is going to be close because we're a divided country. It's going to be close because they will do everything they can to try and suppress votes and make people feel like it doesn't matter. That's where you all come in. You're motivated enough to be here. You've got a voice to talk to your neighbors. You know you run into those people who say, oh, I'm just not that into politics. Too damn bad. Politics is into you. Go vote. Go vote. And let them know. If you tell them, they'll go. 1 or 2 people in every precinct in Wisconsin or Michigan or Pennsylvania will be the difference, not just for the next 4 years, but for the next 40 years. And not just for this state or this country, but globally. The rest of the world is looking and saying, where is the America we love? Where is the America that leads with its values and its decency and its kindness? Well, I'll tell you where it's at. It's right in this room. And you know it's this simple. The vice president said it, and it seems simple, but you know it's true. Vince Lombardi's know there's no substitute for hard work. And when you put that work in and we fight, we win. So Wisconsin, let's win this thing right through Green Bay. Let's elect Kamala Harris president. Thank you.